everyone, Bill here with some more TV Photo Talk tips. Today I have some tips about lighting. In this video we're going to go over some tips for lighting with one light. Thanks for joining me, everyone. I hope you're doing well. This is actually going to be a series of videos I want to do about basic lighting. I like to keep these short, so for this one I'm going to focus on using a single light. When I worked in news, kind of my philosophy was one light's better than no light. And I didn't always have time to put up more than one light, but now that I work in video production, I can get more time to use more lights. But this is just some tips for using one light when you really only have the time or the ability to only set up one light. I'm going to use my dummy head here and a code here for my subject as a stand-in. I'm going to use my garage here so I get a little extra space. But for this, I got my basic setup. I'm going to have my interview subject, my camera. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pick a background. One tip that I would give, particularly when you're going to use a single light, is try to have a background that's going to offset what your subject is wearing. So in this case, if my subject was wearing like a dark jacket here, I'm going to go with a lighter background to kind of offset, to separate them from the background. You can do the same thing if they're wearing a light color shirt with a darker background, but something to separate them is one thing when I think about my background. In this case, I'm going to do over the shoulder. I'm going to use my wood pile here. Side note, what is it with us guys and having these like random wood piles? Like, I just have wood in case I need it. Anyway, you can kind of see my setup here. Off on the right side here, I have my wood pile, which is my backdrop. And again, I'm going to use the white of the garage door to kind of offset the black jacket there for some depth. And I actually have my settings on my camera here kind of cranked up kind of high on the ISO and everything, just to kind of show you what this looks like without me putting the light up. With my setup here, again, I'm going to have my subject kind of look into this direction here where the nose room is, and that's important because of course now I know where I'm going to have my reporter or producer stand, and for that I have another dummy head I'm going to set up right here off to the right, and where that person is also depending on where I'm going to set my light up. One thing when it comes to lighting is I'm going to turn off my other lights in the room if I can to help with my lighting or help control my lighting. Sometimes I might want to leave the light on to create more depth or different look, different feels, whatever the case is, but that's one option you can always do, is just turn off any unnecessary overhead lights. I got my single light set up here, and what I did is I put this to the right of my producer or reporter, and I'm going to put my producer or reporter in between the camera and the light. When I worked in news, we would refer to this as a reporter sandwich. Same thing if it goes on the other side, it would be camera, reporter, light. We would have the reporter in the middle, reporter sandwich. But so this is the visual look of that. Off on the right side, again, reporter sandwich, light, reporter, camera, camera, reporter, light. So if you remember the term reporter sandwich, it's just an easy way to remember how to lay out your plan for where your equipment and where your producer is going to be or reporter is going to be, or even yourself if you're going to ask the questions. And the reason why I'm going to show you in a second is why we have the light off to the side is to help with shadows. All right, this is the shot of what my camera looks like with the light in the reporter sandwich position off to this, with the light off to the side. And one of the things that I recommend about this is the reason for this is you can see that shadow on the side of the face, and this helps with the texture on the face. It creates more detail and everything that if you put on the other side, I'm going to show you in a second what it looks like when you put the light next to the camera on the other side. But with this, you kind of get some shadow here. You can see the nose, so it creates this different feel. One place where I'm going to argue about using the reporter sandwich lighting technique is in movies. I love movies, and if you go back to watch the classics like Gone with the Wind or Citizen Kane, you can see they use similar lighting techniques in those films where the key light is off to the side of the subject who's talking. And so it's an old classic setup. Now I'm going to change the lighting position from the reporter sandwich, and I'm going to move the key light, my main light, next to the lens, and you're going to see how the lighting is going to change drastically here. Now the light is it's more of a light sandwich between the camera and this reporter, and we're going to look at the main screen here and see the difference. Here's the light in the middle between the reporter and the camera, and you can see we lost definition here. Now we almost have like a double chin thing here because of the light, and everything just looks more flat to me. We lost those shadows and everything, so this is why I like the reporter sandwich technique. Now I moved the light to the opposite side, so now it's the producer or reporter, camera, and light on the long side. We're going to see how this looks. Now you can see kind of this side, the right side of the subject's face is kind of more blown out. We've completely lost almost all of our definition and shadows now, and so this is really a flat image to me. Everything just kind of blends in. So again, I'm going to defend that reporter sandwich look for the rest of my life over these other two options. And of course, I'm willing to give you a side-by-side comparison of all three options here for the light placement, so you can decide for yourself which one you like best. Of course, you know my opinion that it's going to be the reporter sandwich, but perhaps you have a reason that you want to put the light in the center or off to the opposite side for some dramatic effect. Moving on, my next tip for you is what my friend Dave, who showed me this trick, which I'm going to show you, he calls it a fake 3-point lighting. Again, we're only using one light here, but with this little trick, it gives the illusion that we're using more than one light. Now, a little disclaimer on this works better if you have a more directional type of light, like a spotlight kind of light. I don't really have that, so I'm going to simulate that with this LED flashlight. Again, I have some LED panels, so they don't have really directional capability, so I'm using a flashlight here, and this is a strong directional light which is going straight on his face. For this trick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my spot from directly on the face of my subject, and I'm going to go over to the background. I'm going to light the background. I'm going to use the edge of the spotlight, which is going to be softer, to light my subject. So literally all I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn my light, and you can see it's going toward the background more. And I'll show you this in my main camera in a second after I make the adjustments, because it's a different lighting setup. Okay, so this is kind of ugly, but I hope you still kind of get the gist of it. Again, not a professional light, just a flashlight that's pretty directional. And so I have that pointed onto my background. Hi Holly, that's my dog. And then the softer edge is on the light, or on the face of my subject. And you can kind of see that this is my main camera. And you can see how I lit the background and the face of my subject all with one light. So kind of a false 3-point lighting. You can do this with a panel light, but panel lights just are more omnidirectional, so to speak, with the lighting. So open the barn door and point toward the background. Again, I don't have a directional light except for my flashlight, so hopefully you're picking up what I'm dropping, as a friend would say. And again, we're creating a false 3-point lighting, so I'm getting more light on that background. This also works well, and if I have 4 lights later on, or 3 lights later on another lesson I'll explain, but this helps if I just need a little extra light than what my background light will throw up on like a building or some other background, particularly at night. Typically when it comes to lighting, we want to try to get our subject away from the background, away from the wall, whatever they're talking about, create some depth for the shot, and we can get lighting around that. But this next scenario and tip that I have for you has to do with the situations where you can't avoid that. Like maybe, let's say we're interviewing someone and they have a high back chair and they don't want to move, or maybe it's someone who's elderly who's sitting up against a wall and you don't want to make them move all the sake for just a 10-second soundbite, whatever the case is. So here's a scenario if someone's next to a wall. Here's my setup right now. It's the same thing that I've already been doing with the reporter sandwich. I'm going to do the right on the side. They're going to look to the camera right, whatever. This will normally fly under regular circumstances, but again, for this scenario, we're going to have someone with a high back chair, or in this case, a wall, and they're kind of close. The issue here is, in my shot, I want to try to avoid this dark shadow that's over their shoulder. I want to try to get rid of that and create some depth. So here's what I'm gonna do to try to get rid of that back shadow over the shoulder, is I'm gonna take my light and I'm gonna raise it up as high as I can, and it's gonna get that shoulder down below the shoulder, hopefully, or at least kind of out of the shot of the camera. And it's gonna create a false look of depth. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna raise the light, and I'm going to possibly tilt down on the light to adjust for that too. And we're going to hopefully lose that shadow, or get less of it in the shot. So you see how we got a lot less shadow now, so it just creates the illusion that there's more depth behind the person. And there you go, a few tips I have for shooting when you only have one light available. But I hope you find these videos nice and useful. I plan on having a part 2 where I do 2 lights, a part 3 with 3 lights, and maybe a part 4 with 4 lights or more. Haven't looked that far into advance yet. But I want to thank you for joining me. Please do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe so I know you're out there. You can also leave your questions, comments, and concerns down below. Perhaps you have a tip you'd like to share or you'd like to see me do. I do enjoy those challenges of, hey Bill, how would I tackle this? Leave me a suggestion for a future video and I'll see what I can do. But I want to thank you for joining me. You've been watching TV Photog Tips. I'm Bill. I will see you next time. Until then, good luck and have fun. What he would call a fake third point light. Again, we're only using one light, but with this little trick, it helps create the illusion that we have one. There goes my dog. For my next tip here, sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where someone is in... And there you go, there's just some tips I have for shooting when you only have... I will see you next time. I'm Bill, you've been watching